So it's going to be good because we were at the office today about we're all spreading out to check on venues and to see things. So I'll send this out. So, but it'll 7 o'clock hour, it'll be at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There'll be quite a bit that right after dinner. Yep, 6:30 to 8. That's it. Yeah. So.
Roll call shows all councilors present except Kevin Levy.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3 is special orders of the day and announcements. 3A is Proclamation 2023-032 recognizing Make Music Day.
At this time, thank you. Whereas, observed annually on June 21st, Make Music Day is a one-day global celebration of live music. And whereas, originating in 1982 in France as Fête de la Musique, Make Music Day is currently observed in more than 1,000 cities and 120 countries around the world. And whereas, Make Music Beloit was initiated this year to engage City of Beloit residents in live music performances and appreciation, and whereas Make Music Beloit is a free citywide day of music held at venues of all types, and whereas Make Music Beloit is open to music makers of all ages, skill levels, and musical interests, and whereas Make Music Beloit is performed by anyone, enjoyed by everyone, and whereas Beloit joins 20 other cities across the state of Wisconsin on Make Music Day and celebrating the power of music to bring us together. Now, therefore, the City Council President of the City of Beloit does hereby proclaim Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, as Make Music Day in the City of Beloit to celebrate the musical vibrancy of our community and encouraging residents to attend and enjoy the many musical offerings, adopted this 19th day of June, 2023. And what's not to love about all that? All right.
And it's Celestina Ruffini. If you could introduce yourself and then just share a few words with us.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm Celestino Ruffini, the CEO of Visit Beloit, and with me, Jody Winble from the Castle, taking pictures, I'm sure. And on behalf of the committee that has assembled Make Music Day this year in our inaugural year, just want to say thank you for this proclamation. The committee that has brought Make Music Day to Beloit this year includes Tracy Bliss and Takesha Price from Visit Beloit, Joey Winble from the Castle, Shauna Elamine from the Downtown Beloit Association, Brenda Plackins from Welty Environmental Center, Nancy Clark-Mather from Beloit Filmworks, and Julie Urim from Nature at the Confluence. We're so excited to have Make Music Day here in Beloit this Wednesday, June 21st. As mentioned in the proclamation, we became the 21st city in Wisconsin to be a host of Make Music Day. There are more cities in Wisconsin than anywhere else in the United States participating. In Beloit's first year, we have 34 confirmed performances by 24 different musicians or musical groups at 13 different venues throughout the city, taking place from 10 a.m., starting at 10 a.m. We have music at the Gantry downtown, going all the way through the night to 10 p.m. So anyone that's interested can go to makemusicday.org/Beloit to see the entire schedule, to see all the genres and artists that will be included. But we have venues throughout the entire community. Jody, do you want to share anything about some of the performances? Or are you going to leave it as a surprise? Yeah. Most important thing is the Gantry is one of our feature premiere locations, and that will have music going all day, beginning at 10 a.m. So we invite the entire community to come out, enjoy all 34 performances. Once again, makemusicday.org/Beloit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we can't wait to make music, to hear the music too.
3B is Proclamation 2023-033, recognizing Dr. Scott Bierman, retiring president of Beloit College.
Whereas, after spending 27 years at Carleton College in Minnesota, Scott Bierman became the 11th president of Beloit College in July 2009. And whereas President Bierman holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics and mathematics and a PhD in economics. And whereas, while at Beloit College, President Bierman was instrumental in working with the city of Beloit on several projects, most notably a recent award-winning Powerhouse, a student recreation center and student union, creatively funded through tax credit programs and philanthropy, allowing the college to open the center without incurring any debt. And whereas, throughout his tenure, President Bierman was committed to making sure the experiences of students at Beloit College would educate and prepare them for their future endeavors and careers. And whereas, state, city, and community leaders were present at the recent groundbreaking ceremony for Impact Beloit, a Beloit College initiative which will open in August 2024, quote, unifying career readiness and community-based learning programs to advance the college's mission of empowering students to lead lives of high achievement, personal responsibility, and public contribution in a diverse society, unquote. And whereas President Bierman is widely respected and highly regarded throughout educational circles, making sure Beloit College maintains its important reputation and high national ranking as a liberal arts college. And whereas President Bierman and his wife Melody always had an open door for students, and while they will be missed, the Bierman tradition, I love this, of presenting first-year students with a pair of signature turtle mascot socks will continue. Now, therefore, the City Council President of the City of Beloit and the Beloit City Council convey our sincere appreciation to Dr. Scott Bierman for his many accomplishments and dedicated service to Beloit College. His wit, wisdom, and sincerity in leading the students, staff, and alumni, and extend best wishes on his retirement as president of Beloit College, presented this 19th day of June, 2023. And I know that our president will make sure that it gets into the hands where it should be.
Yes. And if we could at this time just give applause for our former president, Scott Bierman, that would be wonderful. And I just want to add, we're grateful to President Bierman and also to Melody for helping to make our students and our city even better. And we wish them, as we said earlier, all the best.
Item 3C is introduction of new hires, transfers, promotions of city employees.
Jerry, our city manager, will introduce our department heads who will share information about our newly hired or promoted staff.
Sure. First, I'd like to call Megan McBride from the Community Development Department, who will be introducing Brian, our grant compliance specialist.
Hi, Hi, everyone. I think you've all met Brian. He really jumped right into all the ARPA and CDBG stuff, but just to introduce him formally to you, lifelong Beloit resident. You all may have worked with him in the past through his role as the director at Head Start here in the community. But as the new compliance specialist for the city, he'll be helping primarily with ARPA as well as CDBG in terms of the monitoring and compliance, administrative requirements, and then of course doing technical support and offering assistance to our applicants and subrecipients. Brian, do you have-
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, Deputy Chief Griffin from the Fire Department.
Well, thank you, Council, for allowing me to introduce our new firefighter. Taylor wasn't able to make it tonight, unfortunately, but we did have a swearing in for him on Friday, where he received his fire helmet with his new candidate shield on there, and then a certificate. And then in 2 years, we'll actually be doing a pinning ceremony where we actually have a relative or something pin him in and becoming a full-time firefighter. So Taylor started the fire service in 2014 as a volunteer in South Beloit. He then got hired full-time in 2021 with the Wimberley Fire Department, and then we stole him from the Wimberley Fire Department here in the last couple of weeks. Taylor was able to do a 2-week orientation where he did Beloit firefighting techniques. We took him to the burn tower at Black Hawk Tech and really made him do a lot of different things. So Taylor had a lifelong dream of being a firefighter with his Uncle Jerry, who was kind of his person that he followed. He was a retired Allsup Fire Department in Illinois. So Taylor's very excited to be here, and he's just sorry he wasn't able to make it tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Taylor.
Next, Bill Frisbee from Public Works.
So I've got 3 employees tonight. First one is Nicholas Brem. He is one of our solid waste collectors, started with us back in March, came to us with some experience already as a solid waste collector in the private industry, so he was able to step right in. We had recently had a new software program in our solid waste trucks, and he said it's one of the best programs he's ever seen, so that's nice to hear. We have a new environmental technician 2, and that's Terrell Jeffers. She comes to us from, do you know exactly what it is, Josh? It was Walworth County something or another, or Village of Walworth, Fontana Walworth treatment plant. There she was the laboratory manager, so she had a lot of wastewater experience, so she was able to jump right in with all of her experience. And the third one is a transfer, and that's Tyler Capel. He has moved from our Parks division over to our Streets division, our Streets group in the Operations division. So he was able to also step right in, familiar with the job, having seen his coworkers do it for several years.
Welcome to them. Welcome.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, and welcome to all our new hires, and welcome to our City of Beloit team. At this point on our agenda, I would like to move item 12B up. Are there any objections from my fellow councilors to moving 12B to this point on the agenda? If there are none, I'd ask the clerk to please read item 12B.
12B is the 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Statement Presentation.
Director Eric Miller will provide us with an overview on this item.
Good evening, Council. So as required by state statutes, we have engaged an independent CPA firm, Baker Tilly, LLP, to perform complete examination of the city's financial statements and accounts. They have concluded that the city's financial statements as of December 31st, 2022 are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. With us tonight is Justin Hoagland from Baker Tilly, and he will walk you through the annual financial report.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me.
As Eric mentioned, I'm Justin Hoagland. I am a senior manager with Baker Tilly, and I run the city side of your audit. We do have a different group at Baker Tilly who does the utility funds, but I will be talking and giving some highlights over those funds as well tonight. We did issue, as Eric said, the annual comprehensive financial report last Friday. And so after we issue, I always like to come give a brief overview of some financial highlights and see if you have any questions for me as well. So feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions. Otherwise, you can certainly ask questions after as well. I'd like to thank Eric, Don, and the rest of his team. The audit went really smooth this year, as it does every year. And they're always very responsive to our questions and everything like that. So it always makes our job easier, right, when they are responsive. So thank you to them. As Eric also mentioned, we did give a clean or unmodified opinion on your financials this year. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give. So all good on that front. The other document I wanted to briefly mention is the reporting and insights from the 2022 audit document. It looks like this. This has a lot of different information on it, or in it. It has, any material entries that we made as part of the audit, any internal control issues that we found, describes what our responsibilities are as your auditor, and some other required communication that we need to give to those charged with governance, the council. But the main document I'm going to be speaking on is up on your screen here. It's this financial highlights document. And so if I go to the first page here. Really when I'm assessing the financial health of a municipality, I always like to look at the general fund, right? This is the main operating fund of the city where most of the day-to-day transactions run through. And specifically, I like to look at the fund balance in the general fund or the equity that's built up over the years. So this first page on the top, this bar chart kind of shows your fund balances. The blue bars are as of the end of 2022. The black is 2021. And your fund balance is broken down into a couple different categories or types. They're described at the bottom, but I'm just going to go over them briefly. First of all, at the bottom there, you see that you have non-spendable fund balance of about $3 million. We say it's non-spendable because it's not in spendable form. So a large chunk of that $3 million is made up of advances that the general fund has advanced monies to other funds, and it's not expected to receive those back within a year. Hence, we say it's non-spendable because you don't have it to spend within a year. Another big one is the assigned fund balance for $250,000. That's amount that you have in your 2023 budget. You've kind of said we're budgeting to use up $250,000 of that fund balance, so it's been assigned for the 2023 budget. So that's why it's broken out there. And then kind of what's left over is your unassigned fund balance, right? This $14.1 million. This can kind of be used or not used at the city's discretion. The other item on this page that I want to point out is in the middle is that summarized income statement. Again, this is just for the general fund, very high level, showing that you budgeted to use up $250,000 of fund balance for the general fund. However, you actually had a net income of about $1.35 million. So you did better than budget by about $1.6 million. I will caveat that with a huge chunk of that, about $1.1 million, related to TIF number 10 that closed during 2022. And so when a TIF closes, if it has excess money, it then gets divided up between the city and the other overlying taxing jurisdictions, the county, school districts, et cetera. And so the city's piece of that was $1.1 million that was transferred to the general fund. So even if you would have took that out, you still would have had about a $500,000 net income. So again, great to see great results for the general fund in 2022. Going on to the next page here. This again focuses around the general fund balance. And so one ratio that we like to calculate is we take that unassigned, unrestricted fund balance that we just talked about, and we divide it by your operating expenditures. And so essentially this is saying, if we didn't take in any more revenue, how long could we kind of keep the lights on and pay our bills in 2023 by just using that unassigned fund balance? And so you'll see the red chart there is the city's percentage. And so for 2022, it was about 41.1%, which equates to about 5 months. Again, you could kind of keep the lights on, paying the bills. The blue dots are other municipalities your size in Wisconsin, so you can see that you are above or have been above that at least for the last 4 years, again, which is good to see. So moving on to the next page here. So another important area that I like to look at when kind of determining the financial health of a municipality is its debt. And so you're allowed per state statutes to have up to 5% of your equalized value in general obligation debt. So that's what this kind of line charts is calculating. The black line is what that 5% limit is. This is how much you can take out, your maximum GO debt. Again, the red line is what your actual GO debt is. So you can see you're well below that. You've essentially used up about 37% of your debt limit of the end of 2022. So you definitely have some borrowing capacity. The city also does have a specific debt management policy. Again, you can, for state statutes, use up 5% of your equalized value, but your debt management policy says, no, we're not going to do more than 3 to 3.5%. So if you factor that in, you've used up about 53% of your debt limit. Again, this is at or a little bit below the average for other municipalities in Wisconsin. So the next page here, again, this focuses around debt. And so another ratio that we like to calculate is we take how much debt service payments do you have during the year divided by your normal routine expenditures. And so this is pretty much saying, you know, what percentage of those normal routine expenditures do you have to devote to debt service? Because if you have to devote to debt service, you can't, you know, buy a truck or get more employees, right? So for 2022, that came out to about 13.2% of your routine expenditures were devoted to debt service. You'll see the black dots, again, are other municipalities your size in Wisconsin, so you are below that, again, which is a good thing. So the next slides, I'm going to move into the utility and transit results. So this first one is specifically your water utility. And you'll see that, again, that line chart is showing your operating results, where the red line is your operating revenues, the black line is your operating expenses. You can see they're pretty level throughout the years. It's on the right side where the revenues are higher than the expenses. Under that, we kind of calculate your unrestricted reserves. This is kind of like what I described with the ratio. We want to see how long could kind of the utility survive paying its bills with that unrestricted cash that it has. We always like to see at least 3 months of cash, and you're at 3.62 at the end of 2022. So again, above that. The next part below that, the debt coverage. Some of your utility debt has a debt covenant that pretty much says you need to reach this debt coverage ratio. It's essentially a ratio to calculate that you're making enough income to pay your debt service in the future. And so that required ratio is 1.25, and you're above that at 1.52 for 2022. If you want to see the detail of how that's calculated, it is in the financial statements for how that specific amount is calculated. The last part at the bottom, your investment in capital. Again, all your utilities are very capital asset intensive funds. You know, you got whatever it's meters, piping, wastewater treatment plants. So we like to see of that capital, how much do you still, is kind of debt related, right? You still have to pay off that. And how much is equity, meaning you've paid off the debt. And so for the water utility, 56% of those assets are paid off or paid with cash originally. 44% you're still paying the debt on. Again, that's a pretty average ratio for other utilities. So the next page is the sewer utility. Again, set up very similar to the water utility here. You can see, again, the red is the operating revenues, black operating expenses. So for the last 2 years, your operating revenues have been above the operating expenses. Again, I don't audit utilities. I believe there was a new rate put into place in early 2022 that likely helped this kind of jump up here. Again, your unrestricted reserves, 7.83 months, well above that 3 months that we like to see. You, again, easily met the debt coverage ratio. And again, the investment in capital assets is similar. So The last utility is a stormwater utility. Again, operating revenues, expenses have been pretty steady over the years, and operating revenues are higher than the expenses. Again, you crush the months on hand, 15.6 months of unrestricted reserves on hand, easily meet the debt coverage ratio, and also you have about 88% of that capital is already paid off. You don't have debt on it, so really high percentage, good to see. And then the last page I have here is the transit utility. This just shows a breakdown of your operating revenues and expenses and kind of what categories they fall into. A lot of transit utilities are heavily subsidized by the state and or federal government. You can see in 2022 for Beloit, over 60% of that fund was funded by federal or state grants, and 30% was the city or other local subsidies, and about 8% was the fare revenue that was taken in. For the operating expenses, you'll see that about 75% of it was for salaries and benefits. Again, this is pretty much in norm with other transit utilities as far as these breakdowns, so nothing crazy there. And then at the bottom, lastly, we're just showing what is your net income for the last 2 years in this fund, revenues compared to expenses. The last 2 years, your revenues have exceeded your expenditures, so again, good to see. Those are really everything that I wanted to go over. Are there any questions that I can?
Are there any further questions or comments from councilors? I just want to thank you on behalf of the council, Justin, and also Baker Tilly. And I just had a couple things I just wanted to mention. We did move you up in the agenda because I think sometimes we put the audit too far behind, and we need to really put this in the forefront. In that report, there were no violations in the audit report. And just for the public who are watching, the city is awarded a certificate in financial reporting excellence by the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, based on its annual financial report. So this award is looked upon favorably by rating agencies, which contributes to a higher rating and lower interest rates for us. So I just wanted to put that out to the public, and that the 2022 report will be placed on the City of Beloit's website, and this puts us in conformance with our strategic plan, because we always look at that as we move forward, which is Goal 2 and Goal 6. Goal 2 is to create and sustain a high-performing organization. Goal 6 is to create and sustain enhanced communications and community engagement while maintaining a positive image. So that's where we're at. Thank you, Eric, and your team for the work to help pull all this information together. Much appreciated. So thank you for being here.
Item 4 is public hearings. 4A is public hearing to solicit input on public housing, community development, housing, and homeless needs in the city of Beloit for incorporation in the 2024 annual action plan.
Our Deputy Director, Terry Downing, will provide us an overview of this item.
Good evening, councilors. Megan has handed out the yellow sheet, which once I go through the staff report, I'm going to go through that for the public and for our newer councilors who may not be familiar with the CDBG program. The Department of Housing and Urban Development requires that we provide an opportunity each year for citizens to give input on public housing, community development, homeless, and housing needs. These needs will be incorporated into the annual action plan that we are required to prepare in order to qualify for our community development block grant funding. Each year, the city is required to hold a public hearing to seek input on these items for incorporation into the annual action plan. A second public hearing will be held on June 28th, 2023 during the Community Development Authority meeting, or the CDA meeting, to provide an additional opportunity for public input on community needs. Any needs identified should be considered when the City Council sets local funding priorities for 2024 CDBG funding at its meeting on July 17th. So the way the staff will bring forward a staff recommendation for priorities, and what we look at is what was identified during our 5-year consolidated plan. So we have 5 annual plans in our that are attached to our 5-year consolidated plan. And so the needs identified in the 5-year plan, plus every year, whenever we have community input, we put those together and then we provide a staff recommendation. That staff recommendation will go to CDA first, and then CDA will recommend priorities to the City Council. So this usually is the official kickoff of the CDBG year. Every year is the public hearing on needs. So this is for funding for the 2024 year. And this is the very first step. Although I have to say that we've already done some informational sessions this year with our wonderful grants administrator, Megan McBride, which you just saw speak. But I want to go through the full schedule just so the public and the council know the next steps moving forward and what the full process looks like. So the community development, you all have the yellow sheet, and we go through this every year just so everybody kind of hears it. Can be a complicated process or a long process, and it's hard to keep track of sometimes. So the history of the Community Development Block Grant Program is it began in 1972 as a flexible program that provides communities with resources to address a wide range of unique community development needs. The CDBG program provides grant funds to the city on an annual basis based on a formula. So the activities funded with CDBG must meet a national objective. So you'll see under the requirements section, there are 3 bullet points. So they must benefit low to moderate income persons, or prevent or eliminate slums or blight, or they can be used to meet urgent needs. Number 2 under the requirements is in order for the city to receive these funds on a formula basis or annually, we have a number of reports that we have to conduct and complete. The first is an analysis of impediments to fair housing. That is, or we call it an AI for short. We do that every 5 years, and it is matches the cycle of our 5-year consolidated plan. So in 2024, a new one will be developed for the year that starts 2025. The consolidated plan is required every 5 years, and this is a 5-year strategic plan outlining how the city plans to use their CDBG funding based on community needs discovered through research and input from local service agencies and the public. So that consolidated plan, like I said, lasts 5 years. Our consolidated plan ends at the end of 2024. So next year we'll be working on all of those public input meetings and neighborhood meetings and developing our consolidated plan throughout 2024 to begin in 2025. So 2024 is our last year for the last consolidated plan. And then every year we have to do an action plan. And this includes the annual CDBG budget approved by City Council and is submitted annually to outline how the city plans to allocate funding to address community development, housing, and homeless needs. So that's what you're probably familiar with, is the annual budget that comes before you every year for your approval. We do a substantial amendment. That's required whenever there is a change in either the use of funding or a change in the budget by 20% or greater. What that means is after the council approves the funding, if there happens to be a change, for example, maybe there's an agency that can't use some of their funding, or there's an agency who wants to use their funding for something else that council maybe didn't approve, or we have budgeted too low or too high. So we don't know each year what we're going to receive for CDBG funding until the federal fiscal budget is passed, which sometimes doesn't happen until mid-year after we've already approved everything. So if any of those things fall above or below 20% of what council approved, we have to go back through the public process as far as approvals go. Or if we want to change any of the funding from one category to another. So let's pretend there's public service funding that's left over, and we want to put it towards housing. That would change the category, and that would have to go back through the public process. Otherwise, things can be done administratively and we don't have to bring it back to the city council. And there is a policy called a public participation policy that the council approved that provides guidelines on what we can and can't do as far as the budget administratively. And then the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or the CAPER. We do a presentation each year in March to the council to talk about, and that's the year-end report for CDBG. We do a report on every year on what we've spent our CDBG funding on and what the accomplishments have been and how many beneficiaries have been served, so that way the council and the public understands where the money is going. So the public participation requirements, we have 2 public hearings. So this is annually. So 2 public hearings during the CDBG and Consolidated Annual Plan, and amendments. So we usually do those. We usually actually do. Yeah, we do 2, I guess. I was thinking we did 3. So 1 at council and 1 at CDA. There's public noticing for all of the reports that are listed above. And then there's a public review period for budget and all reports listed above. That public review period is usually 30 days. When we got our CARES funding, so they called them CDBG CV funding. Sometimes the federal government shortens that public review period if there's an emergency situation or something like that. But for the regular CDBG process, it's a 30-day public review. And what that looks like is our plans go on the city's website, they go to the library, and we have them at the front desks at City Hall, so anybody can come and take a look at those and make public comment on that. To get to probably the part everybody's interested in is how much annual funding do we receive in a year, and that's on the other side of the yellow sheet. So the city of Beloit typically receives between $550,000 and $650,000 in CDBG grant funds each year. That seems like it's a big range, but it just is what it is. So we try to budget as close to what we think we're going to get as possible. HUD, there are funding caps required by HUD. So HUD allows the city to fund no more than 15% of public service activities per year. And that is calculated by taking 15% of the grant award that we receive, plus any program income from the previous year. So we do have some programs that generate income. So our housing rehab loan program, we have loans, and any income that comes back from that has to go back into the CDBG program. So we take the program income plus the grant, and we add it together, and 15% of that is allowed to go out to public service agencies. There's an asterisk there, which I will talk about in a second. HUD also allows the city to fund no more than 20% on planning and administration of the CDBG program. This is a huge program with many subrecipients, so it takes a lot of staff time from obviously the Grants Administration Division, myself, and our accounting department. We can use up to 20% of those funds to help pay for salaries when we're working on CDBG. It has to be while we're actually working on the CDBG program. It's not just a percentage of our salaries, and we have to track that. If I go back up to the public service activities, 15% can go towards public service activities unless they are being provided in a NARSA neighborhood. NARSA stands for Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Area. The city has 2 of those. That's the Hackett neighborhood and the Merrill neighborhood. And they also have to be carried out by a CBDO, which is a community-based development organization. So that you have to meet those 2 requirements in order to fall outside of that public service cap. So that allows the city to give more funding to agencies to provide services because they're not limited by that cap, but it has to be for public services in those 2 neighborhoods only. And then the remainder of the CDBG funding is to be utilized on other city activities such as code enforcement, economic development, housing rehab, public facilities improvements, etc. But they still have to meet that one of those 3 national objectives. So it still has to benefit low to moderate income persons, prevent or eliminate slums and blight, or meet urgent needs. I am going to hand over the application timeline and process to Megan. Based on some community input from last year's CDBG process, we've made some changes, and Megan has been pretty much the leader in creating all those changes. Oh, you're over here. It's backwards on the screen. So I'm going to let her go through that and talk about some of the changes.
And Megan, can you introduce yourself for members of the public who may not know who you are?
Yeah, thanks. I'm Megan McBride. I'm the grants administrator for the city. And as Terry mentioned, last year when we went through the public process, I feel like a lot of the concerns we heard were around transparency and kind of clarity of the overall process. So we have made some changes for this year that I just want to highlight and provide opportunity for any questions. As Terry said, we have done application information sessions. So we've already done 2, a virtual and an in-person one. And then we have another one held tomorrow, and there will be another one on Thursday at Beloit Public Library. And I contact any agencies who have expressed any interest in ARPA or CDBG funding at any time in the past, or just agencies I have contact information for, making sure we're sharing about those information sessions, but also offering one-on-one assistance if they would like it. You will see a little red asterisk next to June 19th. As Terry said, this is the first public hearing to kind of kick off the process. You will see another asterisk 2 items down of June 19th through July 10th. That is for the pre-application eligibility checklist, which is a mouthful, but is one of our key changes. Last year there was some confusion or some issues for agencies who needed additional documentation of their 501c3 status, and having them submit all of that documentation at the same time as their application made it really difficult for staff to be able to work with them and to assist them while we're still on the tight CDBG timeline. So we've kind of split the process in 2. The questions are the same documentation they've always provided in the past, but this way agencies will already know they're eligible, and if there are any issues, then we have time to work with them before the full application comes out. And then related to the NARSA activities, as Terry said, there are both requirements in the federal regs for the types of activities that can be delivered as NARSA activities, as well as the agencies that can do it. So now we have qualifier checklists for those as well. It's completely optional, but that way agencies can fill that out ahead of time and know by the time they fill out an application, 1, they're not going through all the work to fill out an application to find out that they're not eligible, and then they also know exactly what categories to apply under, because we'll already determine that NARSA eligibility. So again, public hearing today. Next public hearing on needs will be June 28th next week. And then all of that public input will be taken into account by City Council at your July 17th meeting to adopt those local needs, which will then be included in the application for 2024 subrecipients. Then the next day is when that application will become available, July 18th, and agencies will have 4 weeks. So again, that'll be more the narrative piece, describing their project and kind of how it'll meet community needs. We will have already established eligibility before they fill out that portion. Applicant presentation, so similar to how you saw during ARPA, they will be given to the CDA during their August 23rd meeting. And then again, similar to ARPA, we'll have a scoring rubric, which will be posted ahead of time. It'll be very similar to ARPA, where we have exactly what the score values mean for each question. And so CDA will be responsible for scoring the applications. And then at CDA's September 27th meeting is when they will review those scores and make a recommendation to you all for the 2024 funding. And then that recommendation will go out for public comment again for the 30-day period. Within that 30-day period, we have another public hearing for the public to give input on the recommended budget. That'll be on October 16th. And then finally, November 6th is when council will make the final vote on the funding allocation for CDBG for 2024, just in time for us to be able to submit our plan to HUD by the November 15th deadline. And then the program year, of course, starts as of January 1st. So those are some of the major changes and kind of the overall schedule. We'll keep coming back to this yellow sheet throughout the process. And of course, if you have any questions or want to talk through anything, let me know. But that's kind of the overview for this year.
I had a few questions, but I'll take councilors first. Councilor Forbeck. Vice President Forbeck, I apologize.
Thanks, staff, again, and thank you especially for responding to some of the difficulties we had last year. I just want to emphasize, because it really took me, I want to say, a year or two to really realize that when people see this $550 to $650,000, I mean, I used to think that's what we had to work with. And of course, we only have 15% of that to work with. So that's just huge for everybody, and I just can't emphasize that enough, that we sure wish we had more money, because always the projects that people bring to us are good and well thought out and well intentioned, and we just never have quite enough. But it also does your heart good, because there's a lot of people trying to do wonderful things in Beloit. So that's all my proselytizing. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Forbeck. Councilor Terrell.
Yes. Thank y'all for coming up and presenting before us. But I want to highlight something that I hear from people in the public in the Narsa neighborhoods that could be seen as a negative, but that's not anybody's fault sitting up here right now. But before we go through this process, I'm hoping that we can, before we award these funds, that we can look into the agencies that are actually helping the people in these Narsa neighborhoods. Because what I'm hearing from people in the public is that some of these, and that's not to call out anybody unless somebody feel like the shoe fits, but I have to call it for what it is because I'm hearing this from people. Some agencies are doing the work in the communities, but some people feel like it's not really benefiting them in the community. So an example like that is like not necessarily only with the CDBG funds, but other funds as well that we're putting towards like home upgrades and things like that, or helping to assist with building homes in those communities. The people who are actually living in the communities feel like they're not being reached out to when those services are being provided. So I'm hoping that we ramp up the questions that we're asking these agencies. Are they really helping the people in the community, and not just saying that they're doing in the community? Because it's a lot of good work that they're doing in the community, but the people in the community, for example, like when we have people moving to Janesville because like they're feeling like services that's supposed to help them personally isn't helping them, so it caused them to have to move out of the city. And we got to remember that these are taxpayer dollars, so when I'm talking to the average taxpayer, they're looking around and they're seeing that their money are going towards programs like this, but they're still hearing the complaining from the people who it's supposed to benefit. So the average taxpayer is going to say, well, where is my money really going? You know, and who is it really helping? So I would like to see that the agencies that come in, that we do what we can to eradicate every single problem that we can with these people that are already in the community with these dollars. And again, these are things that I'm hearing from the public. This isn't anything against the council or anybody up here, but hopefully we take a step to address those issues so that it's not being said, rather it's from the people that actually need the help or the taxpayer. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay, were there any other questions from councilors? I did have one, Terry, just thinking about it. The information about the public meetings, I did go onto the City of Beloit website, and I clicked right into that link. It was the CDBG link for those who are watching at home. But I guess my question kind of goes like kind of with yours, Councilor Terrell, just what are our outreach efforts to make sure that everyone is aware of all the different timelines? Because we do hear sometimes that people, they don't know about it or they don't hear about it. So are we reaching respective groups or other prospective groups is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so in terms of kind of like the broad outreach, obviously we post on social media and the city's website, and we post in the paper and do the press release. But what I've heard from agencies is that the direct outreach, receiving emails, is really helpful, or phone calls or things like that, or just being available for them to ask questions. So we've had one-on-one meetings with agencies already who are interested in applying, and then any of the agencies on my email list who are here today will tell you that I send frequent reminders, and I'm really trying to keep it on everyone's radar of when the meetings are upcoming and all the opportunities to provide input.
And another question I had, and Terry covered this earlier, about what if someone, because we were talking about making the different guidelines and different things and having the public involved in that, giving input. was there somewhere in the library you said they could give public comment, or was there?
The annual plan and budget is posted at the library, so anybody who wants to read the annual plan and make comment on the budget can do so. It's posted at the library for 30 days. And then, am I able to answer or actually comment on what Councilor Terrell said?
Absolutely.
So the people that would like the funding to go maybe to some other needs. That's why these public hearing needs are so important, is if they come forward and explain what the needs are, that's what we take under consideration for priorities for where the funding goes. If nobody comes forward during these needs hearings, then we have to rely on what was discovered 5 years before when the consolidated plan was developed. So it's important that they come and let us know what those needs are, so that way we can make them a priority.
Go ahead.
And I just want to add, related to kind of the public outreach piece and being able to evaluate that, we are adding a question. It was in the ARPA applications, but asking agencies to explicitly describe how they'll be doing public outreach with specifically how they will also do outreach to the NARSA neighborhoods. That'll be for all activities, not just NARSA activities. So just trying to get agencies to be thoughtful, and then obviously CDA and council can take that into account when they're making their funding decisions.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. Again, it's not the staff's fault or anything like that. With the agencies that we've funded in the past, like I say, we just want to make sure that they're actually, again, like I say, reaching the people and helping the people in the community. Because this is going to be an ongoing problem if we're seeing tax dollars going towards things like this. And let's say that some of this money is supposed to help some of these low-income families upgrade their housing or whatnot, or for any kind of youth activities and whatnot. What I'm hearing from the public is that it's benefiting people more so outside the community, or it's people moving into the community that are benefiting from projects like these, was what agencies claim that they're doing in the communities, but it's not helping the people that are actually there. And some people actually feel like they're getting pushed out of their communities based on funds that come from the city, which is not our fault, but the agencies that we're dependent on to eradicate these issues. So then it becomes a problem somewhere in, say, Janesville or Roscoe or Rockford, instead of us addressing it here. And then, like I say, these are taxpayer dollars, so when the average taxpayer is looking and they're seeing issues going on in the city that are not being addressed, what their tax dollars are going to, that's where it starts to become an ongoing problem, where the taxpayer is even going to start complaining, like, dude, where's my taxes going? And why is it not helping the people that it's meant to help? So I'm just addressing it just in general. It's nothing against the staff here, but the agencies, I just think we got to be just kind of, ask those questions and find out what it is that they're doing to actually help the people in the communities, in these neighborhoods.
And if you can clarify for me, I believe those are federal dollars, and aren't there guidelines where those funds have to be used a certain way, and isn't there reports that have to be completed by the applicant?
Yes, so all of the beneficiaries of the funding have to benefit the residents of the city of Beloit, and we go every single year. First of all, they do quarterly reports with backup documentation that is submitted to our staff that is reviewed, and then annually staff goes out to each organization and does kind of a mini audit, and they monitor where the beneficiaries are that are receiving the services. And we do check to make sure they are Beloit residents. That's a requirement of the federal funds. They can't be serving anybody outside of the city of Beloit. If it's a NARSA activity funded for the NARSA program, there's also a check to make sure the beneficiaries are within the NARSA neighborhood boundaries. And we haven't had any findings, I don't think, at least for 2022. We just got done, I say we, Megan and Brian went out and monitored all of the agencies. And when I was reviewing their monitoring cover sheets and the supporting documentation, I didn't see any findings where folks were outside of the city of Beloit. and it has to be in the city limits, not just 53511. It has to be within the city limits. And there's a geocoding kind of website that people go to make sure that the beneficiaries are actually living within the area.
Thank you, Terry. And for people who are watching at home, Megan and Terry, is there a contact if they, let's just say they don't have the email, or is there, who would they make contact with, or if they needed to pick up a form where they could even complete, who would they talk with and what's the phone number?
Yes, I would be the best contact person. My office number is 608-364-6738, and then I'm also located on the 3rd floor of City Hall, so if anyone ever wants to stop by for an in-person meeting or to get like hard copies of any of the applications or materials, we also have it available there.
And that would be during the work hours from 8 to...
Yes, 8 to 4:30.
8 to 4:30, okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. If there are no further questions from any other counselors, and I'm not seeing that there are, thank you so much for that presentation. At this time, the public hearing is open. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor or oppose, please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Tia Johnson, 1621 Indian Road. At the last City Council meeting, many residents expressed concerns regarding 3 separate property issues. These are concerns the city, the Beloit School Board, and Rock County Board of Supervisors need to work together on. The first was the closing of the branch office of the Rock County Health Department. Many Beloiters do not want this.
Excuse me, point of order, just real quick here. And I think there's some confusion here. Tia, I apologize, but is this public hearing or public comments?
No. This is about the properties, the community development properties. This is not my public comment.
And I apologize. I just wanted to make sure.
This is not my public comment. This
Okay,
is community development.
I just wanted to make sure, so that's okay.
Yeah. No. It's a community development, and Beloit is part of Rock County.
Right. No, I know. So I just wanted to make sure we were hitting out right.
Has some oversight. So please hear me out.
No. I was going to hear you out one way or another. I just wanted to make sure we were under the right category.
Apologize to you. We want to hear you out. So go ahead, dear.
Where was I? The first issue that came up, property issue that came up, was the closing of the Beloit branch office of the Rock County Health Department. Many Beloiters do not want this. I suggest the school district of Beloit donate the old Wright School building to the county health department and have the county cover any and all necessary renovations to house the Beloit branch office there. This is the most centrally located closed school building, not far from the branch's current office, across the street from Home Care Pharmacy, and in a good central location. The second issue was the proposed multi-unit housing development off of 6th Street. The residents in that neighborhood expressed their frustration at having high-density dwellings on such a small lot and the increase in traffic and noise in the area that it would bring. A much better location for so many units would be the McNeil property. I suggest you reach out to the school board and the developers to discuss the potential sale of the property to the developers, with the understanding that it remain as housing with a set percentage of green space in perpetuity. The last item was the changing of the Wooten tennis courts to pickleball courts. The empty lot off of 6th Street that would have been the housing should be purchased by the city and used as a park that has an acre or 2 dedicated as public tennis courts. I think you'll see in all of these that it would benefit low-income people and fall under some of these requirements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else wishing to speak in favor or oppose, please come forward. Final call. Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Ann Gilbank Ames. I live at 1658 6th Street, and I'm very much opposed to putting the multi-units in the lot next to me. I've lived in that house. Me and my family lived in that house since 1966. We want to keep it as a field because, you know, all of our neighbors and all, we all enjoy that field. It's a green belt. We don't want condos or apartments or a cement because it's going to be all cement. There's going to be no green nowhere there.
We're not at public comment yet, but thank you. We'll call you back up in a few. Thank you. At this time, this is the public hearing to solicit input on the public housing, community development, housing, and homeless needs in the city of Beloit for incorporation in the 2024 annual action plan. I just want to be clear for the residents and the people that are at home. So at this time, this is the final call. Would you wish to speak? If you would like to speak in favor or oppose, you could come forward at this time. And this is regarding that, we're not at public comment yet. This is a public comment for this particular issue, for the CDBG.
Okay. Hi, I'm Prisha Gastina. I've just kind of became aware of this tonight, so in listening to it...
Tony, can you say your address for the record?
1313 11th Street in Beloit. Mm-hmm. I'm just concerned about, again, how the funds are going to be used. I really appreciate Councilor Terrell in asking about this, because we know a lot of people, and we own homes in the NARSA district, and I've not heard about any of these things that are apparently available to these low-income people. We've had contact with these people in these homes since the 80s. So it's kind of like, it's very interesting to hear about this. I'd like to, I will be looking into seeing what is more available to benefit these people in the area. So, it talks about, benefiting the low and moderate income persons. And so anyways, I just want to again mention that. We just have not heard about it. I want to make sure that the funds are benefiting the people that are in these areas and used appropriately.
And so when you say these people, you're talking about the people that fit into the guidelines of the...
Absolutely, because it says right here that one of your requirements is that they are benefiting the low and moderate income persons, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But I just wanted to clarify what you meant by that.
Yeah, for people that are, yes. Is that clarified? Okay, all right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Final call. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor or oppose at this time? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bogomila Kozinski. I live on 1618 6th Street. I am really highly opposed of the plan to build those apartments on a 6th Street. I love this area. I love the streets. I love the river. I just feel so bad that in my retirement ages, I have to be close to cement, not the green. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. There is no official council action on this item this evening. This was just to gather input on how to spend the CDBG funds. 4B, please.
4B is consideration of ordinance number 3790, amending the zoning district map for the properties located at 400 Willowwick Road, 2300 Collie Road, and 2001 Gateway Boulevard.
At this time, our director, Julie Christensen, will provide us with an overview of this item.
The future land use designation for the 3 parcels that Marcy listed is community commercial, which is most compatible with the C3 community commercial zoning district. This kind of was brought to our attention because you've been working through a process of selling a portion of 400 Willowbrook Road to Jason Turner for opinion meets, and that included a provision that the city would initiate a rezoning for that property to C3. We started looking at the property to the north, which is 2300 Collie Road, and since all that land is across from the proposed Ho-Chuk Casino, it seemed appropriate for community commercial uses. And then similarly, 2001 Gateway Boulevard is along the extension of Milwaukee Road, east of the I-3990 and I-43 interchange, and is ideal for community commercial uses. Planning Commission reviewed this application on May 3rd and voted 4-0 to recommend approval of these zoning map amendments. This does meet 2 of the goals of the strategic plan, and under sustainability, C3 zoning will foster economic sustainability by allowing a new commercial business in the city of Beloit. This is on your agenda for public hearing and first reading tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. At this time, the public hearing is open regarding this item. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor or oppose, please come forward. Final call. Would anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposed, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Prisha Gastina, 1313 11th Street. I'm for that, but I would like to mention that since the zoning is for residential use, some of that zoning is being changed for that I would like to propose that the 6th Street 120 unit plan be considered for the areas over there where it will be zoned properly, instead of the R1 zoning that is the current zoning on the 6th Street property. So I would be in for that and propose that, consider using that spot for the 120 low-income housing, and I'll be speaking more about that in a little bit, but regarding this particular one.
Thank you. Final call. The public hearing is now closed. At this time, can I please have a motion to lay over the ordinance?
I so move.
Moved by Vice President Forbeck, and I believe it was seconded by Councilor Levy, or was that Councilor Adama? I couldn't hear. Okay, so it was moved by Vice President Forbeck, seconded by Councilor Adama. Are there any questions or discussion? I would just like to add that I hope we uphold the Plan Commission voted for to recommend approval of the zoning amendment. So, are there any other further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
Item 5 is public comments.
We have reached the point on the agenda for residents to speak to the council about issues that are coming before us or may come before us in the future. Council members may not act on any request at this meeting, but may refer a speaker to staff for assistance. We ask that you please hold your comments to 3 minutes or less and refrain from personal attacks of any kind. Public comment is a courtesy, and we expect everyone to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Speakers are asked to complete a public comment form. Madam Clerk, were there any public comment forms submitted prior to the meeting?
Yes, Tina Johnson is first.
Okay. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Tia Johnson, 1621 Indian Road. A century ago, my grandparents, Willie and Nettie Duncan, Mississippi sharecroppers, relocated to Beloit. When Nettie, one of the Turman sisters, entered the kitchen of her new home at the Fairbanks Flats, she dropped to her knees, kissed the wooden floor, and praised God for blessing them with the hope and opportunity for a better future for her family. Eventually, with the money he saved while working in the foundry at Fairbanks, Grandpa Duncan bought a home on Gerald Avenue. There is no doubt my grandparents made the right choice back then to move to Beloit. However, for several years, Wisconsin continues to hold the title of the worst state in the nation in terms of racial disparities. Many may not be aware of any racism that exists, but such disparities do exist even in our beloved Beloit. In budget priorities, in hiring and committee assignment practices, and even in how city employees address people of color. Imagine my dismay when I attended a meeting a couple weeks ago to get answers to questions regarding the proposed pathway between Cranston and Milwaukee roads going in front of the closed Morgan School. I asked from which taxing body the money was coming from and why the project was being done before the stairs at Roosevelt Park were repaired. My jaw dropped when a city employee told me, "Well, when people like you show up." Now, I'm not the most artful or graceful speaker, and many times have had to remove my foot from my mouth. But those words were more than inartful. It was coded language for you, the only person of color in the room, are not like us and are not one of us. The employee did not say to me, when residents show up or when concerned citizens show up. It was clear and distinct. When people like you. It is my hope that we do not have to wait another century before my descendants can proudly say, Wisconsin has the lowest racial disparities in the nation, and Beloit was the model city that led the way. Of course, This will only happen when city leaders stand up and create necessary transformations in budgeting, hiring, and communicating. Happy Juneteenth.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment forms?
Kim Alverson.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Kim Alverson, 1618 Oak Street, Apartment B, in Beloit, Wisconsin here. Good evening, council members. I live at 1618 Oak, and I kind of live in paradise back there. And as you can see, as I'm visually impaired, and I do quite a bit of walking down through there, and I do a lot of night walking too, which is very hard for me to do. And my concern is the traffic. If I'm speaking on the 120 unit on 6th Street. My concern is there's no stop signs along Ridgeland there anyhow. My concern is that with no stop signs, it's really hard for me to walk. And if you have all this extra traffic coming in there, you know, what's my chances, you know? And I usually walk up north on 6th Street, and then I cut over to a street over on up north a ways. And I just don't think that you know, I'm not complaining that, you know, I'm visually impaired or not, but I'm just quite concerned about it. And I live in a really nice neighborhood right now, and I sure do want to keep it nice and safe there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann Ames.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Ann Gilbank Ames. I live at 1658 6th Street. Like I said before, my family's lived there since 1966 in the same house. And there's a lot of us around there that have lived there a long, long time. We like our neighborhood. We would like to keep it this way. I mean, I can see like the tennis courts or something if you want to do that, or you know, the gardening, the community gardening or something, but no cement. We don't want a cement. I don't want to look out my side yard and see a big old building and have cement all around. I like the field. I like the flowers that come up and the asparagus and playing in the field. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harrell.
And thank you very much for that comment. Can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Dorothy Harrell. I'm at 2284 Boulder Court. I'm not going to talk about the development on 6th Street, but that's my old neighborhood. I was born there with an open field in 1949. When I left the high school in 1967, it was an open field. When I returned to Beloit in 2012, it was an open field, and I hope it stays an open field. Thank you for that. I wanted to first thank the City Council for the funding that our food pantry received. I thought that I did ask someone to send what I thought was a very clever thank you note to the council, but the president says she didn't receive it, so you'll probably get it tomorrow when the meeting is today. But I hope you'll enjoy the little note when it does come to you. We just wanted to say thank you and to let you know that our food pantry is serving the community. We're doing a great job. One of the things that we talked about in our presentation was that when the funding was cut for people at the end of March, that we were going to see an uptick in people at the food pantry. We served 700 families last month. Now, if you take a family of 2 or 3 and multiply it by 700, we're talking about thousands of people from this community that are impacted by that food pantry. We appreciate what's coming to us, and we will be good stewards of our resources. I also want to thank Megan McBride, who held my hand and helped me walk through the entire process. She's very good, she's very resourceful, and she's also very approachable. So I want to thank Megan personally for all the help that was provided to me. One other thing I want to address is to co-sign some of the things that I heard at your meeting last month. I did review and listen to your meeting, and I wanted to say that I agreed with Mrs. Johnson about the need for the repair of the steps at Roosevelt. I talked to Patricia Majid today, and she and Brian Elliott still run the softball program, and they still use that field for practice. If you had been at Juneteenth, you would have seen how many kids were involved in that softball competition. We're not talking 30 or 40 kids. We're talking probably a little over 200 kids that are on this field practicing. Please repair the steps. I want to co-sign two things that I heard at that meeting also, and that was when Dr. Keyes talked about perhaps you could partner with the school district for busing for students. High school kids could ride the bus. We've got kids coming from the west side over to Aldrich. We need another means of transportation, I think, for those people. Using a city buses might be a great idea. Also, Dr. Keyes and Dr. Fossum talked about the health services. I did listen to the report. I read the strategic plan that they put forward. There was nothing in the strategic plan that went up to 2025 that talked about the need to move that office. No reasons were given within that strategic plan to address that.
Sorry.
You can go ahead and wrap up.
The Director Harwood, there were great questions asked by Councilman Levy, Councilman Adama, Councilman Day, by the President. They were not met with specificity. The answers were not specific. They were good questions, but they didn't get good answers. And I want you to know that we have people in D.C. right now attending the Poor People's Campaign. And what's happening here is that first thing they heard was 800 people a day die from issues related to poverty. We have poverty in this community. If people wanted services in Janesville, they have moved to Janesville. We do not need another service, key, vital service, moved to Janesville. She said two things that were upsetting to me. They were forced to go, and there would be no impact on services. I don't know how you move the whole health department and say it doesn't impact services. It most certainly does. I'm still upset by the fact that the courthouse moved to Janesville. I see no need for us to take public health for Beloit and put it in Janesville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Adams.
Susan
Can you
Adams.
please? Oh, yeah, you were going. You got it. State your name and address for the record.
Okay. Susan Adams, 703 Milwaukee Road in Beloit. I'm here speaking for myself. I have two issues. I want to cover the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee and the Rock County Health Department. First of all, I agree with what she said about the Rock County Health Department. It appears that no one with specific environmental expertise was appointed to the ad hoc comprehensive plan steering committee approved at the last council meeting. In the packet, it was noted that, quote, this document will guide land use decisions and suggest policy changes that support environmental, economic, and social sustainability. Since there are no specifically listed environmental people or experts on the actual steering committee, I would expect that at least one or two focus groups will ensure the environmental aspect is considered, this is upsetting, I think. Also, I want to applaud the efforts of the City of Beloit to ensure that Rock County Health Department has remained a strong presence in Beloit. Our poverty rate, according to the census, is 17.7%. And I checked some other cities in the Rock County, and we are the city with the highest percentage of poverty and the city with the highest number of people in poverty in Rock County that I could find. And I hope by now that you have been given the statistics that you asked for last time. I don't know if you have. I asked Sherry Blakely last night or a couple nights ago, and she said she hadn't seen them. Anyway, I thank you for this work on this important decision, and I personally like Tia Johnson's ideas for the various properties. So, and I totally agree with what she has to say about the health department. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any members of the public that did not sign up who wish to address the council this evening? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Prisha Gastina, 1313 11th Street. I'm here to bring up the May 15th report and presentation that had to do with the American Rescue Plan Act. it was mentioned in this report that $4 million was allocated and for this particular act. And in looking it over, it says in here that the money's to be used to create and sustain safe and healthy neighborhoods and to create and sustain a high quality of life as a strategic plan. What I'm concerned about is that apparently in looking it over that there's transitional living facilities, other facilities, and I'm thinking that this could possibly be the monies that would help fund a 120-unit project for the low and moderate income families. And I'm concerned because it states in here that, it needs to meet the community needs, yes, but that when you, with the two strategic plans, if you take this money and put it in a 120-unit high-density building, I really question, or facility, I question whether that would meet some of the support long-term growth and opportunities for people. I think if you were to ask the low and moderate income families that would need to qualify for that, would they want to live in a high-density unit, or would they prefer to be in something smaller units? So I'm proposing that maybe some of this money, if there is to be taken away the field, which I don't want it to happen, but if there were some single-family homes, if some of this money could be used there so that you could actually support this presentation of long-term growth and opportunities for people that just don't have the opportunity to have their own homes. So that's one thing I would like to mention, and please consider not rezoning the 6th Street property to become something other than the R1 that it is. I'd like to mention about the McNeil land. I still, as a West Sider, would like to see a middle school on the West Side. So I'm very apprehensive about giving up a school. I think we need to look at growth for Beloit and not reduction. So therefore, I would like to see us be able to improve our city more so people will stay in Beloit. The lady across the street is moving to outside of the city of Beloit because she's got a 4th grader and she has no middle school on the west side for that child to go to. They have to go across to the east side. Okay, so please consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who did not sign up who wish to address the council this evening? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Heather Schneider, and I live on 1617 Bluff Street, the property right on the property line where the 120-unit complex project could take place. I bought my home in 2005 and worked very hard to pay my home off in full. I picked this location for the peaceful neighborhood that it is. The land is zoned for a single-family home. I never imagined a huge complex right in my backyard. This small location and neighborhood is not the place to put a huge complex. There is not enough resources on this side of town to compensate such a project for this many people. There are other locations a project of this capacity could go. Possibly McNeil Middle School would be a great place for this project. This location would also give the project the opportunity to grow and expand if needed. If this project would take place on the 6th Street, you would be cramming 240 plus people smack dab in the middle of a small neighborhood. It also does concern me for my safety and the safety of my children of possibly having 240 plus new neighbors right in my backyard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who did not sign up who wish to address the council this evening? Madam Clerk, were there any public comments submitted by email?
Yes. It is great that the city is obtaining grants to improve our parks infrastructure and to create connected bike lanes and walking paths from one side of the city to the other. But why are we not first pursuing grants to improve the park infrastructure in the neighborhood parks located in the more economically depressed and predominantly black and brown areas of the city? Broken stairs at Roosevelt Park, for example. The people in those neighborhoods are the citizens most in need of safe green spaces to recreate in and who can benefit the most from them. Not pursuing those infrastructure improvements first is the very definition of systematic racism, and it needs to be changed. Beloit fixes the parks in affluent areas first and leaves the black and brown neighborhoods languishing, and that affects every single one of us, whether we know it or not. These people are our neighbors, our relatives, and our friends, and we need to realign our park improvements projects to reflect that reality. And we need to save all mature trees everywhere when enacting these park improvements, because the negative effects of climate change disproportionately affects our black and brown citizens. More systemic racism at work. Please, councilors, work to address this disparity. Thank you so much for taking my comment and for taking action on it. Jenny Hoople. That was the only one submitted.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is now closed.
Item 6 is consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda.
And I would just like to take a moment and thank everyone that came out to give public comment. We love to see the public become involved and to see what's going on at our city council meeting. So thank you all for being here. That said, would any council like anything removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to see 6D removed.
Vice President Forbeck, for the record, would like 6D removed. May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda, including items 6A through 6C and 6E through 6G?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Terrell, seconded by Councilor Blakely. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
6D is consideration of Resolution 2023-085, awarding Public Works Project C23-34 Transition Parking Lot Light Update.
Our Deputy Director, Terry Downing, will present on this item.
Thank you, President Duncan. The parking lot lights at the Transit Administration Building located at 1225 Willowbrook Road are approximately 25 years old. 2 of the 7 lights have already failed and have been converted from high-pressure sodium lights to energy-efficient LED lights. The decision was made to finish converting the old lights to energy-efficient ones and to protect the existing light posts from corrosion with a fresh application of paint. There's a balance of grant funding left over from when the Transit Admin Building roof was replaced back in 2020. In order to use these remaining funds, they must be expended on a project related to facility or grounds maintenance. Replacing the lighting in the parking lot is an eligible project for the use of these funds. 3 bids were received, with the low bid of $11,575 being submitted by Foley Electric Incorporated. This company is considered a responsible bidder for the project. The base bid is 42% lower than the engineer's original estimate of $20,000. The cost for this project is listed in the staff report, so if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them for you.
Thank you. First, may I please have a motion to approve the resolution?
I so move.
Moved by Vice President Forbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Blakely. Are there any questions or discussion? And I believe we have Vice President Forbeck with the comment.
Well, I'm so delighted. I mean, this is so important. It's a significant way we change the amount of pollution that we send. And I mean, every time we transfer some of our lights, I'm delighted. So, well done.
I should have chosen the sustainability one too then for the goal, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Are there any further questions or discussion? At this time, there's a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
Item 7 is licenses. 7A, consideration of resolution 2023-089, approving an amendment to the Class B fermented malt beverage beer and Class B intoxicating liquor license for a premise extension and amendment of premise description for Jolte Vita, doing business as Hacienda San Miguel.
City Clerk Treasurer Marcy Granger will present.
They have submitted an application to amend the premise. They're moving from the ice cream store over to the left and just want to extend that premise. It'll be the same business, same people, just extending that area to the left.
And same license, right?
Yep, same license, and the ABLCC voted in favor of it 5-0.
Great. Wonderful. May I please have a motion to approve the resolution? Moved by Councilor Levy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Forbeck. Are there any further questions or discussion? At this time, there is a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
7B is consideration of resolution 2023-088, approving late renewals of alcohol beverage licenses for the period July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
City Clerk Treasurer Marcy Granger will present.
All the alcohol licenses, as you know, expire on June 30th of every year. Last meeting you had the initial one. This is the lake group that does pay a $100 fee. ABLCC recommended approval 5-0. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. May I please have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Terrell, seconded by Councilor Levy. Are there any further questions or discussion? At this time, there's a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
8 is ordinances. 8A is consideration of ordinance number 3795, annexing 2 properties located on the 5000 block of County Road X from the town of Turtle to the city of Beloit.
This is a second reading of an ordinance. May I please have a motion to approve the ordinance as presented?
So moved.
Was that?
Moved.
Okay, it was moved by Councilor Terrell. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Day. I was going to say. Are there any questions or discussion? I just want to add that this will help development in the gateway, and then also to say that this annexation will foster economic sustainability by allowing for development of this parcel in the city of Beloit, and if approved, this will increase the city's tax base and allow for development of this parcel in the city of Beloit. So that said, all those in favor, at this time there's a motion to approve the ordinance as presented, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
8B is consideration of ordinance number 3796 to amend sections 1.77 sub 9, 1.82 sub 2 sub B, and 1.82 sub 9 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit pertaining to quorums and membership for Board of Appeals and Equal Opportunities Commission.
This is a second reading of an ordinance. May I please have a motion to approve the ordinance as presented?
Move.
Moved by Councilor Terrell. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Adama. Are there any questions or discussion? I just wanted to add that we can move forward with city business by approving this, so just wanted to put that on the record. Any other further questions or discussion from councilors? At this time, there is a motion to approve the ordinance as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
9 is appointments.
May I please have a motion to approve the appointments as presented? Moved by, was that Councilor Adama? Is there a second? Second by Vice President Forbeck. Are there any questions or discussion? At this time, we have a motion and a second to approve the appointments. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
Item 10 is councilor activities and upcoming events.
Madam President, could we just quickly announce the following vacancies? They're listed here.
Can you do that with your report? Because we'll start with you, Councilor Blakely.
Oh, sure, I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Councilor Blakely, go ahead.
I'm on.
You're on.
Okay. We do have vacancies on the following committees and commissions. Alcohol Beverage License Control Committee, Appointment Review Committee, the Board of Appeals, the Board of Review, the Community Development Authority, the Equal Opportunities Commission, the Landmarks Commission, Municipal Library Board, Park Recreation and Conservation Advisory Commission, and the Traffic Review Committee. Thanks. I had one or two other things.
Go ahead for your council report.
Okay.
Continue.
Didn't I read that very well? Didn't you like that? I like that myself. Thank you very much. I attended one of the Juneteenth celebrations, the one at Telfair Park, and was really gratified to see the entire parking lot full. Both events, I understand, were very well attended. At Beloit Public Library, the summer reading program for children and adults is already underway, so just check at the library about that. And as we saw earlier with Celestino and Jody, Make Music Beloit is this coming Wednesday, June 21st, and there are free events throughout the city, so please go to the website makemusicbeloit.org. Free events, free music, outdoors, great. One other thing is that at Grinnell Hall, the senior center, the annual ice cream social takes place Saturday. I wish this weren't the month I had given up ice cream, but it is. But others can come and enjoy it. There'll be entertainment. It's great for people of all ages, a great place to bring the kids during the day Saturday, or just come enjoy yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Blakely. Next, Councilor Levy. Okay. Thank you. Next, Councilor Adama.
I will also encourage people to, anyone watching, join a committee, but I feel like it's very important that young folks get involved as well. I think it's super important that they understand how these things work, and it kind of takes some of the mysticism out of, city management when you're on committees, and it kind of helps make it all more tangible. I also went to the Juneteenth celebrations. They were awesome. It's super cool being in a city that really, walks the walk when it comes to acknowledging these very important historical events, and I was just happy to see it. And it was cool seeing how much community was there, and I'm super excited to see how much more we can do, especially with all the money we're putting into parks and how the parks will look in the next, few years. So it's good stuff.
Thank you. Councilor Trill.
All right. Happy Juneteenth, by the way, as it is Monday. Juneteenth Day officially. But over the weekend, I attended the Juneteenth celebration at Telfair Park on Saturday, and I had actually, I came later on the day, so I had missed the one on Riverside, so I want to apologize to the Rising Queens down there who put that event on, but I will attend next year. And to speak on the positive things, to go off on another note, I've been hearing really good things from people in the public, and I'm out here all the time. Like, you can catch me at some of these events, you can catch me at some of the local bars, even watching a basketball game or something, and I'm running into people who are saying really good things about our city manager, Jerry, and this time that he's been here, I'm actually looking for somebody to say something bad about you. So when I do, I'll let you know. And I'm hearing some really good things about just the overall, our staff, Beloit City of Beloit staff in general. It's just a lot of good things that's being said within the past year or so. With new people coming on board, new leadership and everything, I feel like it's people are feeling like more transparency and more outreach coming from the city, as was mentioned earlier ago about even Megan McBride, and people are just feeling good about just being approachable to not only our city staff, but also the city councils. I'm just hearing really good things, and I've also talked to community leaders who are saying good things about our ARPA funds. Going towards the homeless projects, youth development projects, and the parks and et cetera. I'm just like I say, hearing just nothing but good things on those ends. And I want to encourage everybody all the city of Beloit staff, our city manager, even us councilors, to just stay the course, continue to keep doing good things. I'm rarely ever running into people that are saying negative things, and that's not to say that there are negative things being said, but for the most part, I think we have challenges in the city to address, to never dismiss those who are affected the most. But this council has done everything we could to address all issues brought before us. And we will continue our efforts to eradicate all issues affecting our citizens in the city as much as we can. And that's not to say that we'll do it 100%, but we will address it, and we do hear the people who come before us and talk and speak on their issues. And one thing I like to say about this council personally, and even what I've heard from people in the public, is that we're not overly political and making anyone feel left out regardless of political views or ideology. People come in and feel like they're being heard by not only the city staff, but the councilors and everybody involved. So I just would like to say specifically on our behalf that I believe we're doing a good job, and the public is definitely feeling it. So I just wanted to leave it there.
Thank you, Councilor Terrell. Councilor Day.
I have no report. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Day. Vice President Forbeck.
Well, just quickly, was at a wonderful meeting at Beloit College when they announced their Impact Beloit. And you speak of togetherness. It was great because there were all kinds of course, this took place on the Beloit College campus, right by their library that they're going to be expanding. But there were lots of Beloit College representatives, but so many city representatives too. You just don't always see that. I mean, and it was significant. So I'm pleased and thrilled. And there again, it's people who are trying to work for the betterment of not only the city of Beloit, but individuals who live within Beloit. Then I have to say, my husband and I and some good friends spent a wonderful Friday night at Music at Harry's Place. It was spectacular. There were probably over 1,000 people there. A beautiful night, a lovely time. And then I did get to stop into both Juneteenth events. They were wonderful and crowded and successful and fun and meaningful. So congratulations to all the hard work that went into creating those. And that's it.
Thank you, Vice President Forbeck. My report is a little lengthy tonight. I'm just going to be totally honest. I'll try to just talk really quickly, I guess. But there's so many different things and so many great things happening in Beloit, and I just don't want to leave anything out. First, I want to say thanks again for all those residents who gave input under public comment tonight. It's not easy coming to the podium. It may seem like it on TV, but it isn't. Even when we're sitting here and we're talking, it takes some nerve. So thank you to those who gave public comment this evening. Next, I want to share that the Beloit NAACP Political Action Committee and League of Women Voters will present a Women in Local Government Roundtable at the Beloit Public Library on this coming Saturday, June 24th at 9:00 a.m. The Beloit City Council will be included along with representatives from the Beloit School Board and Rock County Board of Supervisors. I encourage members of the public to please attend this event, especially if you have interest in serving on a commission, board, or our city council. Also, congratulations to USS Beloit's newly frocked petty officers. We are so proud of you. There are lots of wonderful photos of the ceremony on our City of Beloit Facebook page. And next, special thanks to Chief Sales and the Beloit Police Department for their partnership and efforts with the Father's Day cookout that was held yesterday at Riverside Park. I hope all the dads and father figures had a wonderful Father's Day. We go all out for Mother's Day, but we have to remember that our fathers are very special. In addition, I want to give thanks to Chief Sales and all the law enforcement officers who took a person into custody after executing a search warrant last week. The officers seized 2 firearms, including 1 stolen, 45.53 grams of fentanyl, 63.65 grams of crack cocaine, 23.38 grams of heroin, and 19.14 grams of marijuana. We have had numerous drug overdoses and loss of life in our community. So thank you, Chief Sales. the Beloit Police Department, and all the law enforcement officers involved in this investigation, and for keeping us safe. We truly appreciate your service, your sacrifice, and your hard work. Let's give them a hand. That said, I want to give a shout out to Officer Lorenzo Henderson and Officer Tom Halverson on their respective retirements from the Beloit Police Department. We thank you, Officer Henderson and Officer Halverson, for your service and wish you all the best as well. Also, congratulations to Deputy Fire Chief Jason Griffin. See, Jason, you didn't know this was coming, did you? For being named one of the 25 most interesting people by Northwest Quarterly. We have many of our city staff doing great things, and we applaud all of you. For my counselor activities, I want to mention that it was great to be joined at many of the activities with other members of the council and our city manager. That said, I attended the Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting, the Beloit Ministers Coalition meeting, music at Harry's Place, the Beloit College groundbreaking ceremony of the Impact Beloit Center and library renovation, and both Juneteenth events that was hosted by the Rising Queens, YWCA, and Elite Ladies. Thanks to all those involved in making these great endeavors a success. And thanks so much to Tracy Dumas and Rising Queens for surprising me and other women who are serving the community with awards during the Juneteenth event. And I'd just like to show you this award. I didn't know this was coming, I was speechless, and I didn't have to say anything. Usually I have everything prepared, but I thought it was just very neat. And this was the award, and it said, Regina Duncan, known as a trailblazer and breaking barriers for Black women, June 17, 2023. So I just can't tell you how much this meant to me, and it was just totally unexpected for me, and I think the other ladies that were awarded. So I just want to say, Tracy, if you're watching, thank you. I didn't expect it. Oh, you're making me feel so special. Thank you. And speaking of Juneteenth, our Beloit City Council has proclaimed today, June 19th, 2023, as Juneteenth Day in the city of Beloit. In honor of the day, I will share my speech that I gave this weekend during the Juneteenth celebration. And don't worry, it's not very long. I'll get right to the heart of it. And this is how it goes. Hello, everyone. First, I want to thank Tracy Dumas and the Rising Queens for giving me the honor to speak at this Juneteenth event. My message to all of you is about unity in our community. And I couldn't be more proud to be here in commemoration and celebration of the end of slavery in the United States. As I think of what that means, I am reminded that most of us wouldn't be where we are today without those who have come before us. You see, we are on their shoulders. They paved the way. Now we have to walk the path and strive to achieve greatness. That said, Juneteenth is about freedom, and it's also about community. We are challenged today more than ever, dealing with societal ills such as war, poverty, crime, global warming, health care, rising costs for groceries, student loan debts are high, gun violence seems to be a constant, mental health issues have increased, and many of our children are left alone because parents and guardians have to work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. There are also continued inequities that people of color and women are faced with every single day. It can be overwhelming, so what can we do? I think there is no simple answer, but there is a simple way to start. Let's begin by lifting one another up and giving an extra hand when we see someone is down. Let's mentor our youth and support our Black and female-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and our local small businesses so they can be successful. And let's better ourselves. And I said that let's start with the person in the mirror and then reach out to help someone else, no matter their color, creed, race, religion, gender identification, or orientation. We each have commonalities as human beings, wanting the opportunity to be prosperous and pursue happiness. Let's choose to spread more love as we go about our daily lives here in Beloit, Wisconsin. By joining together as one, we can each play a part in changing our Beloit community and our world for the better. So let's embrace the freedom that we all have. and unite toward an even brighter future. Let us become the shoulders our children and grandchildren rise on. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. This ends my council report for this evening. Next, we'll go to item 11.
11A, City Manager Update.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Next, we'll go to item 12.
Item 12A is consideration of Resolution 2023-086, approving the 2022 City of Beloit Wastewater Compliance Maintenance Annual Report.
And our Director of Water Resources, Joshua Shear, will present.
Good evening, Council. The purpose of the Wisconsin DNR Compliance Maintenance Annual Report, CMAR for short, is to audit our wastewater treatment and collection systems for problems or deficiencies. Management, fiscal, operational, and maintenance activities are evaluated and graded. And every year in June, the CMAR is then presented here for approval before we send off to DNR. In 2022, we received a 3.84 GPA grading, which is an increase from the 3.68 we had the previous year. It is the 32nd consecutive year that we have met or exceeded the requirements of the CMAR, which is great. Overall, our treatment plant does a fantastic job with removing nutrients. The only category that we had any issues, again, in 2022 was phosphorus removal. We've had, historically speaking, we've been really good at that, at treating phosphorus. In 2021, we had about 6 months of violations as well. And there's a lot that goes into why that happens. In 2022, the 2 months that we violated were July and August of 2022. And typically, so our influent wastewater is a challenge, as we don't know what's coming in until it comes to our treatment plant. And we're usually reacting to that point at that when that happens. Our phosphorus is removed biologically. We rely on microorganisms, and these microorganisms that consume the phosphorus, they thrive with consistent food sources and selected environmental factors, so like temperature and things like that. Our influent wastewater is extremely diverse here at the City of Beloit, with a significant portion coming from industry. And a lot of our treatment plant, the way it was built, is not really built to be to treat phosphorus biologically, but due to the strength of the wastewater, it works. We have higher strength wastewater coming from our industry, and for whatever reason, it provides the food source for our microorganisms to consume the phosphorus. In 2022, we had, like I said, in July and August, we had 2 violations. There was an industry input that was basically having an all-time high of product output, which means their wastewater also coming to us was more than it's ever had before. And middle of July, an abrupt halt to the nature of their business, basically cut off all wastewater to us from that facility. Not pointing all fingers or anything to that industry specifically, but to a degree, our microorganism population, we believe, was starved a little bit. Typically, when that happens, there's a percentage that die off, and then it takes time for that population of microorganisms to build back up. So while we violated 1 month, it just takes time for that population to build back up, and that's why we violated for 2 months. So when this happens, when we have a phosphorus violation, it typically happens in pairs. Not always, but it typically does, because depending on the time of the month too, when your phosphorus loading starts to really increase, it sometimes just goes into the next month. We have very stringent limits for phosphorus compliance. So if we happen to violate, it sometimes goes into that next month, unfortunately, and the number is too high for us to get back down to where we need to be. The operational fixes, what we've done at the treatment plant, I guess going back on that. So since September of 2022, we have been in full compliance. We've had great numbers. We haven't had any issues. We've been doing really, really good again with the phosphorus compliance. Some of the fixes, going back to that at the treatment plant, what we did when we were seeing those situations were some of the same things that we did in 2021. Basically injecting chemical, so ferric chloride, into certain areas at the treatment plant, specifically at the primary splitter box. So our very, very large tanks in the beginning of the treatment process, we were trying to inject chemical into that to try to precipitate some of that phosphorus out right away. We were also thickening our primary sludge blankets. Essentially, we're increasing the food source that were going into the aeration basin. So the microorganisms I'm talking about are microorganisms in our aeration basin. That's where the heart of the treatment process actually occurs. So we were trying to increase the food into that aeration basin. We also lowered our return activated sludge rates. Basically, that was decreasing the amount of nitrates coming back into our aeration basin, and due to our facility not necessarily being built 30 years ago for biological removal, sometimes nutrients compete against each other, and nitrates and the phosphorus organisms, they kind of compete against each other. So if we reduce the number of nitrates coming into that basin, gives our phosphorus organisms a better chance to compete and to consume phosphorus. And then also going with that, when our expansion project is finally complete, we will have more capabilities of injecting chemical into different parts of the process as necessary if we need to do that. I'd like to give a little bit of update too about our water quality training. I know that's a big thing that we're trying to do to help with these phosphorus violations. Some of the projects that we have had worked on have unfortunately stopped due to circumstances out of our control. Landowners, whether or not they just decided not to go through with it, have kind of I guess in one way or the other, stepped out of that agreement. We are still currently working on attaining more agreements. In fact, we got one not that long ago approved through here. But we are working on a few more. Our contact at the Rock County Land Conservation Department unfortunately has changed position, so Rock County no longer has anyone capable of managing water quality trading practices, so we have to now work through the Wisconsin Water Quality Trading Clearinghouse, which is through the DNR, basically, and all of our future projects will be coming from that clearinghouse. So we are currently working with the clearinghouse to attain more projects to be able to help minimize any phosphorus violations that we might have in the future. Hopefully none ever again. But you just never know. And we also need to keep working to get more phosphorus credits to abide by our discharge permit as well. I give a quick little update too about our expansion project. The project is still on target for completion, but we have seen many, many delays. Just like everything else in this world, there's a shortage of this, a shortage of that, but the project is still on par for completion. Our UV disinfection project is complete. Less chemicals being used to disinfect our wastewater, so it's a good thing. And it's working really, really well so far. Right now in our admin building, the HVAC system is being reworked and redone. New dissolved oxygen monitoring system has been installed, and so we'll be able to better get an idea of the dissolved oxygen levels in our aeration basin. Like I said, that's the heart of our treatment plant. New blowers for the aeration system have been systematically installed to prevent operational issues. I've been a part of some of these, or a lot of the construction meetings that go on with some of the this project, and it's been really incredible to kind of watch and listen how every entity has kind of got a part in saying how they work well together. So our contractors and our staff have been really, really great with making sure things are being done the right way without impacting our ability to treat the wastewater. Our dryer building, if anyone's driven past the treatment plant relatively soon or lately, you're going to see that the building is up and it's forming, and it's big. It's going to be quite the process when that's up and running. And I wouldn't be surprised in the next 4 to 6 months that the silo eventually will start to get built as well. Other than that, our wastewater treatment plant staff, starting with Rodney Noble, our wastewater maintenance and operations supervisor, and including our wastewater operators, maintenance specialists, our lab manager, they've all done a fantastic job of managing, running, and maintaining the treatment plant, especially through this kind of chaotic process of an expansion project. Our lab manager, which we just changed his title recently, recently had an audit through the DNR for his lab and basically received a perfect score. And that does not happen very often, so just shows that our staff out at the treatment plant has been doing an exceptional job. Other than that, just like to thank all of the staff as well at the treatment plant, as they are a vital part of our public works team and helping to keep our treatment plant running and working efficiently for our community here in Beloit.
Yes, it was. It was very good. Thank you, Joshua. Yeah.
Thank you.
At this time, thank you, Joshua, and to your team. May I please have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Terrell. Is there a second? Second by Vice President Forbeck. Are there any questions or discussion? I just had something to add, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. I just want to say thank you, Joshua, because my granddaughter goes to college in Jackson, and I know how important the water quality is, and then also remember there were some issues a while back in Detroit. And so I just want to mention to people who are watching, when we drink water, we have to brush our teeth, we have to take our showers, we have to flush the toilets, and then we even water our grass and all kinds of things. So it's important that we have good water quality. And I did notice in the report, it was so detailed. Some of it I couldn't understand, so I'm glad you were so thorough tonight, but that the plant received a 3.84 GPA in 2022, and it's the 32nd consecutive year it's met and exceeded that. So I just want to say thank you. And then this also puts us in conformance with goal 1, 2, 3, and 5 of our strategic plan. And so it helps us to be more in compliance. So I just want to say thank you. It's just so important that we have good water, good clean water in our city, and those systems are up and running correctly like they should. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, if there's no further discussion, there is a motion and a second. Did you have is there a second to approve the resolution? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion passes. 12B. We've already taken care of this item, so may I please, we're at 13. Okay, motion by Councilor Adama to join, second by Councilor Terrell. Any questions or discussion? At this time, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion passes. We are now adjourned. Try to move it.